We're now going to discuss sampling variability. To understand sampling variability, we need to understand how bootstrapping works. Bootstrapping uses your sample to try and replicate what's going on in the population. So we need to consider two things when we're bootstrapping our means or medians. How much can we actually trust the data, the sample that we have right now? And what would happen if we took another sample? These two ideas work together to create sampling variability. If your sample does not reflect the population, then it is unlikely that your confidence interval will be accurate. To reflect the population, a sample should contain the full range of possible values. So we're talking about the minimums and maximums of the population. You should have close to the full range of values in your sample for it to be representative. You should also have a sample size large enough to mitigate some of the natural variation. If you had a sample of 30 and you were trying to represent a population of 100,000, do you think that would be more or less accurate than having a sample size of 100 or 1,000? The best sample size to have is a sample size of 10% of the population. Now, this can be very difficult to gain, especially if you're provided with the data. That is why we have the minimum of 30. But the more pieces of information you have, the more likely you are going to be able to reflect the population. Now, when we have a sample of our population, if we took a different sample, another sample, it is likely that that will be different from the first one. So any random sample that we take from a population will be different to each other. And because bootstrapping uses your sample, it means that your confidence interval is going to be different based on the sample that you have. So the question is, how significant is that difference? Is it going to be significantly different? Different to the point where you could make the call or not make the call. The way we can tell if it's significant is how close our original confidence interval is to 0. If it is very close to 0, then it means that it is likely that if we took another sample, it will change the conclusion that we have. If you could originally make the call, you might suddenly be able to not make the call. Or if you originally could not make the call and you took another sample, it might be that you could make the call the next time around. This is sampling variability. Sampling variability must be discussed to pass the standard. If you do not have it, you will not be able to achieve. So make sure to discuss sampling variability after you've taken your bootstrapped confidence interval.